And let me get my share set up. All right. Can y'all see my screen?
Not yet.
It
This has started screen sharing, but
yeah, it's pause. Doing the same thing on my end here. Try it again.
Same thing.
Okay, well, we'll run with it free. So, thank you all for joining the Product Leader Summit Speaker Series. I see a lot of familiar faces, a couple new ones here as well. This has been a grassroots movement that kind of stemmed from coming out of a Product Leader Summit a couple years ago. What we've wanted to do is the Product Leader Summit gathers product leaders across the country in the fall of every year to, one, better understand our worlds and network and learn from each other. But we realized it only happens a couple of days a year, and everyone was craving a little more interaction with each other. So the speaker series was born, where we bring speakers from a broad swath of product different industries, and we focused on quite a few different topics. We came off of a Q2 where we focused on job search and helping each other network and better understand that. This quarter is really about helping product leaders improve their craft. We just wrapped up a talk with finance leaders a couple weeks ago. Today, we've got two amazing sales leaders to help us better understand how we can better partner with them and learn, because this has always been a 10 years relationship, at least in most of my experience. So I'm excited to learn a couple of things here, maybe some back of the room tricks here to help improve my relationship with sales. So I think I'll hand it off to Parul here to introduce our two speakers. But we've got a really great talk here. Parul will lead a moderated talk with both of our speakers, Veronica and Jay-Z, and then we'll have time for Q&A, but feel free to leave questions in the chat and we'll continue to keep this dynamic. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nishid. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. My name is Parul Goyal, and I'm a Senior Director of Product at Indeed. And I have been building products for the enterprise customers for probably last decade. And one thing this experience has taught me is that product sales relationship is not just essential, it's sacred, right? We can build the best state-of-art product, but unless sales is sold on that product and they know how to connect it to customer needs, the product is not going to reach its potential. And this is also true from the other side, because sales can open a lot of incredible door with customers. You can get the conversation started, but then they partner with product. They need to partner with product to follow through on those commitments, to shape the future. Otherwise, these victories are short-lived. And I have experienced where there has been a high level of trust between product and sales. You know, communication flows easily, feedback flows easily. We're all working on the same problems. And I have experienced the flip side of it, where there's a lot of finger pointing, kind of niche to what you were saying, right? Where sales sometimes feel like product is not moving fast enough. Product sometimes feels like, sales changes priorities on a daily basis, and I know this is a very common experience, and which is why I'm thrilled to have Veronica and Jay-Z, two amazing experienced sales leaders, to share their wins, their lessons, and the moments in between. So my hope is, like Nishit, for you and others, is that you don't just walk away with inspiration, but also some very actionable strategies you can apply to improve your relationship with sales. So I am going to, Veronica, maybe you can introduce yourself first, a little bit about your role, and then maybe you can kick us off with like one moment in your career where you knew like this sales product relationship is working. What did that feel like?
Sure. So nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining. My name is Veronica Kautz. I currently serve as the Chief Revenue Officer at OptumHire. It's a relatively new product. It's an AI-generated recruitment platform ecosystem. But after I was waiting tables, after I stopped waiting tables, I started working in the human capital management space in the early 2000s. And I started at Yahoo Hot Jobs back again in the early 2000s. That's actually where I met Jonathan, Jay-Z. And I was there for about 8 years. That's where I got I started kind of grinding my teeth a little bit in management, exploring different sectors within sales. And I really kind of settled into the enterprise world. Spent some time at Simply Hired, where Jonathan also was. I met Shubha. And then I always like to say that I got my MBA from the University of ZipRecruiter. I spent about 7 years at ZipRecruiter. I was one of their first enterprise reps and leaders. They were bootstrapped. They didn't even have a Series A funding. There were less than 50 people at the company. And I stayed with them all through essentially their public offering. And to go through that ride, that hands-on ride, is so crazy thrilling. It's so crazy exhausting. And so that's why I always say that's where I kind of, I didn't necessarily go to an I didn't get educated on it, but I learned just as much. And then from there, I've also worked at like Career Builder and now at OptumHire. So always been in a sales leadership role, always been a big advocate of cross collaboration in general. But I think that I don't know if there's one specific moment that I can pinpoint, right? Like I think something that over time I just recognized, and there's always been that divide between sales and products, right? Like,
Yeah.
but when you look at it at the core, we're all trying to accomplish the same thing, right? We all want the business to thrive. We all want to deliver a really great product that delights the customer. The difference is sales is in front of the curtain and product is behind the curtain, but we're all part of the same performance, right?
Yeah.
Bringing it back to my theatrical side again, we're all kind of, in it together, and you need every single player and every single member. So I don't know if it was really just one moment. It was just over time appreciating, realizing that divide.
Thank you, Veronica.
Sure.
JD, can you introduce yourself? And then maybe something like a similar, maybe a moment or the overlap you see in product sales roles.
Sure. Well, great to be here, Jonathan Zila. But as you can hear, the nickname Jay-Z has certainly stuck. No Beyonce. She won't be joining us today on the call. I'm currently the president of Talivity. So Veronica and I clearly have some overlap in our careers. We both serve really talent acquisition, HR tech buyers. And prior to joining Talivity, I spent a little over 11 years at Recruitix in the programmatic media and technology space. Simply Hired and Yahoo Hot Jobs before that. So I think for me, when I realized that when I had the first product leader who wanted to go on a client call with me, not I should say a prospect call. So pre-sales. Let's talk through the problem we're trying to solve. And we had just this beautiful, because Veronica said it, we're all doing the same thing. We're trying to sell what you all build. And when we had this, this product problem solution, meeting, and this was at Simply Hired, Veronica's where I'm thinking about this. It was like the first time I experienced really the relationship that was like, and I'm going to be very frank, I hope that's good on this call. That's where I was like, oh, I can make a lot of money with this person.
Nice.
Because we were like, the dots were being connected. And so
Yeah.
that was a big aha moment for me at Simply Hired. And it's, honestly, it's ebbed and flowed throughout my other, kind of positions, because that product sales partnership sometimes is great and sometimes has its challenges.
JZ, for that specific example, what was it about that person wanting to participate in the pre-sales call? Like, what did it convey to you? Like, was it their interest? Was it their openness? Like, what was it that got you excited?
I think it was that they understood that selling the solution, or selling, maybe selling was at the core. That didn't mean that they took on my posture of selling. It's made it to the product roadmap, which is a bad habit of sales. I'm sure we'll talk about on today's call. But they understood that selling was at the front. That's how it happens, and that they could be a part of that process, even bringing product discipline and all the things that I know are important in actually releasing and maintaining and growing product suites. That was where the light, sort of clicked. It's like, oh, we can sell together.
Yeah, got it. So this acknowledgement that just building a product is not enough for it to succeed. And there is this second step that they wanted to understand and learn and really participate in.
Yes.
More about. Yeah. Okay. So, one of the things I was going to ask you about was where do our worlds overlap? And I feel like, Veronica, you kind of explained that. You talked to it. Like, we all want to delight customers, like both product and sales. We want to win a bigger market share. Anything else you want to add where you feel like sales and product really have the same goals?
Yeah, I think there's a lot, really.
Yeah.
Account expansion,
Yeah.
launches, go to market positioning.
Yeah.
There's just so many. But I think probably one that's critical just in the success of an organization long term is probably the ability to communicate customer feedback and have that loop
Yeah.
that will continue to grow and better the product. I hate you hear people say this, like sales is the front line. It is true, right? Like they're
Yeah,
the
it's true.
customers. They're the ones that hear the bitching, that hear the complaints, that hear the good things too. But
Yeah.
they're the ones that get it and have to kind of manage that. So I think because they hear those customer pain points firsthand, it's nice to know that product is open to listening to that, to help direct their priorities, to help inform, not to make the decisions, but to help, to aid in that decision-making process. Product should be able to rely on sales for their input and their features that are critical to winning deals. And I think that making sure that feedback loop happens, develops that trust for the organization to make the best decisions for the company.
Yeah, I would completely agree. For enterprise space specifically, where you can't really run as many surveys to collect customer feedback like you can do with SMB, I think sales and CS can offer be our proxy for how our enterprise clients feeling about our products.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what winning together looks like, right? So what I would love is maybe a specific experience from your careers where you feel like this product sales relationship was very successful and it led to like amplifying outcomes, like where it's like something happened only because, and this sales product relationship working was a big part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Jay, if you want to go first or Veronica.
Sure. Yeah. So I think, in my most recent experience, we were building a piece of technology that was, programmatic media based. It was still, I mean, it was an established kind of thing. There were a couple of other players, but we were still sort of at the forefront of trying to really bring this platform to, common use. And I had, it must have been 3 or 4 meetings with a large enterprise customer that had very specific requirements. And like that was where I was with at the time, the head of product. We were trying to close this deal over the course of, several meetings. And we turned each of those into like, I mean, as a sales centric, leader, it felt like a very formulaic, like back office meeting that came out of those forward facing like client meetings. So it's like we turned their feedback, their requirements into what was ultimately going to be built in the product. And for me, that was like where the lights turned on, because what Veronica was just describing, I get to see that over the course, again, large enterprise customer in this example, turn into what became the platform that's made Recruitix a very successful company. And but it took 3 flights and I think I don't know, probably 18 months to close that deal. But some of those features are in the product today.
Yeah.
Not because of that meeting, because we went back and then ran their, very formulaic, like disciplined product process to turn that into requirements and ultimately roll it out. So that was like we won that together. I got the deal closed, but the product, the platform came to life a bit more, through that one enterprise kind of cycle.
Sometimes I see that sales is kind of nervous in taking, right? They definitely don't want us to talk to enterprise clients without them being in the room. But there's also a little bit of hesitation, like, like you might say something that might actually impact the relationship. Like, was there any trust? Like, what led to this trust where you felt like, okay, this person is okay, I can trust them to help close the deal?
Boy, this is like a tricky question because there's so much like so much human nuance.
Yeah, right. There's so much. Yeah,
Where,
yeah, yeah.
where like we develop trust over the course of that first meeting, where
Got it. Okay.
and I'm recalling something that's probably 6 years old now, 7 years old, but um I probably corrected him a little bit in
Okay.
the way
Yeah.
something came across.
Yeah.
Then the second meeting like got better, right? So it's
Yeah.
like,
I got it.
um, I think some of that just takes a little bit of the push and pull. And I'll tell you, like being vulnerable for a minute, I often, when I think the relationship's at risk, I actually need to kind of go back in and go, wait a second, this person wants to do business with us.
Yeah.
We're not going to lose the deal because like a product person got a little aggressive on a thing that they really wanted to understand, knowing like I can get them back to the
Okay.
because I don't know, Veronica, what you think, but sometimes I think we're a little too like we use that trump card that's like, no, you're going to ruin the relationship. I think we're a little aggressive with that sometimes. So anyway.
I'm sensitive to that. Yeah.
I think sometimes I actually take like a little bit of a different mindset where like, we're going to lose the relationship if product doesn't come.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
Right. So in my career, only once at one company, it was with a company called Brandwatch, and they do social media monitoring and listening. When we went on sales calls, we had sales engineers. That is the only place that I've had sales engineers. In all of my other roles and companies, I've never had sales engineers. So that was product for me,
Yeah,
right? That was, like kind of the brains and the voice, and like they were able to keep me honest and like not overpromise something, right? And like, oh, I don't know, can we do that? Like, then, you hear something, you as a salesperson, you hear something and you're like, oh my God, we could do that. Like, and you get and invested, and then products like, no, we can't. I'm like, oh, okay, right? And they kind of like bring you down. So sometimes it's also really good to have that in the room. And so I think sometimes I actually that's like, I'm like, if product is not there, we're going to lose the deal, because we need somebody who can really kind of talk that language above and beyond what I'm capable of doing.
So
And
Veronica,
that's why Veronica is one of my sales superheroes, right? What she just said, like, this is next level stuff she's talking about.
yeah. Yeah, really, Veronica, I honestly, I have not heard that perspective before. So in the situation that you mentioned, right, where client wants something and you are excited about it, but then product engineering are like, I don't know if it's doable. Like in your mind, like what would be preferable? Like product says it there, like do you have a meeting offline where they kind of tell you, I don't know, we can't really promise anything. What would be your preference?
I think it needs to come out organically, right? I think my preference is to, I would say, ask questions. I have a tendency to ask questions instead of answer questions, like ask more questions, because I just want like to be able to give a really good answer. I'll ask more. So I think my preference is to use that time to explore more. And as the leader of that meeting, I would just be able to kind of handle that. If it is a hard absolute no, I'd rather actually just have it out there. You know what I mean? Because as a salesperson, some of the best salespeople are the ones that disqualify right away, because they focus their time and energy on the sales that they know are going to convert. And that's part of that process, right? Like if it's just something that we can't do and it's a deal breaker, I'd rather actually product let them know, or I'd rather let them know, so that we can move on to and focus on things that are worth our time.
Got it. Okay. So what you would also appreciate is, rather than a knee-jerk reaction from product and engineering, like that's not doable, kind of ask more questions to understand. Right.
Where is it stemming from? Like, where's the problem?
What's the need?
Coming from, right? Because maybe we don't have that solution, but maybe we have another one if we actually understand what the problem is.
Yeah. I see a very good question on chat, so I'm going to bring it up. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher your name. Is it
Digant?
Digant. Actually, do you want to ask your question about the timeline?
Sure. And I mean, I think you touched on this a little bit, but a lot of product people feel like there's a tension between product-led and sales-led, right? Cultures. And so I'm curious about, times where you've successfully bridged the gap through like collaborative product and customer discovery. And then I think, Parul, you touched on this a little bit, but how do you walk the fine line between showing empathy and like a willingness to address your customers' needs and pain points without making promises, right? I feel like a lot of times with sales, they're like, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to fix that problem for you. And then everyone else is like, well, no, we can't because we need to re-architect, the software to be able to build the thing that customer wants. So kind of related questions, but, I'm curious if you've successfully managed other
Oh, you go,
those.
V.
Yeah, I don't, this is gonna sound weird. I kind of hate the term product-led and sales-led. Because because that, when you say that, you're creating that divide. And like, when I think about culture and divide, it starts at leadership, by the way, right? Like, if you want product and sales and you want collaboration, it has to start at the leadership level. And so when I hear people say that time, I'm like, oh, like, because it can't be just one or the other. It has to be both. It has to be a collaboration. So I actually don't love those terms, but everybody uses them. And I think sometimes in a cycle, product is in the leading it, and then sales is leading it, and then sometimes, by the way, finance leads it. Like, sometimes it's a finance led. So I think that I don't love those terms. That's where I think the collaboration and that leadership needs to kind of start. And I always think that as a sales leader, my team, their role is to sell to clients outside of the four walls that we work in. As a leader, my role is to sell within the clients within our four walls. It is my job to sell to marketing, to sell to ops, to sell to product, right? Like, those are my clients that I need to delight. And so I just feel like when a leader can do that too, right, it helps to bridge that gap that you kind of were mentioning earlier. So I don't know that I answered your question, but that just goes around to say that, like, it should be like a people. It should be smart people lead this organization, company. Like,
Yeah, I like the perspective. I wish it were that way,
yeah.
Veronica, but I think I've only worked in sales-led cultures. Maybe simply hired might have been product-led. But I think I've only worked in sales-led cultures, so it's kind of what I know. I think I don't know bridging the gap, but what I bring to this in a sales lead culture as the chief salesperson at Telivity today, I am just perpetually curious. I want to know more. I want to ask. Veronica said it already. I want to ask more questions. Yeah. I'm not looking to disqualify a client. I'm looking to be curious until there is nothing left to be curious about, And then it's like, okay, I don't know that we've got the right solution, or here's something we need to go explore. This may not be a this month, this week, or this quarter, but I think there's something here to go deeper on. So that's sort of how I try and, walk that line between, making the promise and just, let's be curious. How can I support you? Is there and I'm always trying to bring value on those calls, just as a good salesperson. Veronica probably taught me this, but it's just like, always bring value to every call. It might be a recommendation of your favorite restaurant in the city they are visiting or something, but like, you're always bringing value to folks. So I'm just perpetually curious.
And when I think of it from the product side, so let's say if we are part of these calls with sales, maybe reframing what our role is. Like, our role is not to say yes or no in the call, like right there and then. Like, it is really more of a discovery call for us. It really is to, like, I mean, it's a great opportunity for us to hear from a potential customer and their needs and how do they think about this, kind of getting a more outside in view. Right? I feel like if we kind of get away from that fear that we are going to commit to something that's going to require a re-architecture, I think maybe we can, we can come to the table with a more open mind.
I like that.
So I love that. One of the things that I'm big on setting up roles and like setting expectations before going into a call or a meeting. And I do think it's really important that no matter who you bring into a call, whenever I'm invited into a call, what role do you want me to play there? Right? Like, and so I know what I'm doing. Again, maybe it's my theater background, but when I bring other people in, like, this is the role that you should be playing. This is the role that you should be playing, like roles, responsibilities, setting expectations. But the other thing I will say is I appreciate that it is to some extent a discovery call still for you. But I think from the customer perspective, depending on where we are in the process, right? Like if you're in meeting 1, 2, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if we're meeting 4, 5, 6,
you're absolutely
it can't
right.
be a discovery call for you, because then the client is like, well, you're wasting my time. Like bringing back to kind of what JC said, you have to bring that value too. And so it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we, you know, give you all the information,
context up front. Yes.
Correct. So I think that needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think maybe also good prep for the calls, like roles and responsibilities, as you're saying, you know, we don't want to be in a call and ask questions that have been answered already, or like kind of finding out who is this customer, how much business do they do with our company, like all of that context should already be there. Absolutely. Okay, let's talk a little bit about friction points. Veronica, JZ, I would love to hear from you the 2, 3 friction points that you have experienced, and then we'll pick a few to dig deep. And then our audience also, please put in chat like some of the friction points that you would like us to discuss here, and then we will pick a few. JZ, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So a nice clear product roadmap with dates on it, I think, has been a friction point across my career. It's, you know, it's like there's always this push and pull on, like, if I put the date on there, or I, you know, and it's like, that's just part of the job. Like, and I have a number we've got to hit. And that's what we go after, you know. And by the way, sometimes those numbers change, or we don't hit them, we recalibrate. Like, that happens too, and that's okay. I think roadmap has been, you know, it's been a friction point that I don't, you know, I'm still learning on the product side. But that's one that really, you know, that's continually been an interesting discussion.
Okay, so lack of commitment from product to a roadmap. Veronica, what about you?
So the most common one that I've seen in every single organization is the you need me more than I need you friction point. That's just, again, every single organization that I've ever been at, you know, sales basically thinks that without them product would be nowhere, and the company would not be making any money. They feel slighted that product gets credit. Product thinks that without them, sales would be nothing, and they would have nothing to sell, and they feel slighted because sales gets all the credit. And by the way, they're both right.
You're
both right. You're both pretty girls. So I think that, like, that's a big one for me. Another one would probably be quality over speed. Right.
Quality speed, okay.
Because I think sales will always want the let's hurry this up, and product will be like, my name is on this, it's going to be perfect. And then the other one I would say too is just probably the idea of like maybe market needs, right? Like and this might go back to quality and speed too a little bit, but like the idea of like I need you to build this product for this one client. But product is like, no, I'm building this product for 1,500 clients, right? So I think like the understanding of what the market dynamics are, I would say that's a big friction point too.
Okay, I'm going to add one to the list, which is kind of related to the last thing you mentioned, Veronica. From the product, maybe it's the same thing from a product side. It's more about, we were working this long-term capability, or we were building this platform, and now from your customer calls, you have come up with these 3 capabilities we need to deliver now. So this short-term versus long-term, where should we be investing our time? Okay, so we have a list of 5. So roadmap, this I guess lack of just partnership, where both sales and product feel like they are the more important part of the relationship. Quality over speed, building for one client, and then short-term versus long-term. Let's start with the roadmap. And if audience have preference, like if there are specific topics they would absolutely want to discuss here, please put them in the chat. But let's talk about the roadmap. Jonathan, what do you think leads to that pushback of a committed roadmap from product?
I think features for one customer probably is, if Veronica's experiencing that, I think that happens a lot, where they sort of know this is going to come. They
Yeah.
know this is going to come. And so it's like, okay, let me slow play this a little bit and see what, what the next, name your large enterprise customer feature is going to be. I also tend to think that product has a more formal view of dates than sales.
Yeah.
Like if you told us about a feature, Veronica and we could go sell it on the next call at 4 p.m., in 30 minutes. Like that's what we can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Dates are very fluid to us, right? And it's like, oh, I was so glad. Then we find out that's not available for 2 months. Guess what? You're one of the first customers to see that feature. It'll be ready in about 8 weeks. It's like we are comfortable in those conversations. Now we're gonna go give some feedback if it wasn't communicated properly, but like we can work
You can
with
spin it. Yeah.
improve,
Yeah.
and I think I've been very comfortable in those, especially if we're getting to a product outcome that is going to be really valuable for, that customer or many customers.
Yeah. I think Jay-Z and you and I had talked about this, that from product, the hesitation is like it's commitment. It's commitment, and there could so many things could happen outside of my control, but it's my name. But I think knowing this from sales, that it won't be the end of the world if we don't deliver to the dates exactly, and there is room where you can help them, I think that would be reassuring for the product side.
Yeah.
I
One
want to actually
thing
open it up to the audience. Oh, sorry, Veronica, go on. And then I do want to invite some comments if there are any on this topic.
One of the reasons that I love product roadmaps and I like including it in presentations is, one, it shows the client that we're constantly innovating.
Yeah.
Right. And you
Yeah.
need to be able to prove that. So even
Yeah.
by the way, like sometimes, the client's not going to call you back all the time and be like, what about this product roadmap feature?
Yeah.
Right. Like they're not going to hold you accountable for every single one of them, but it does show innovation,
Yeah.
which you need to be able, to show a client. So I think that's good. The other thing is it makes me or the sales rep look educated about the company, right? So if a client starts going and talking about things, and I know that that's on the roadmap, I'll get really excited and I'll just be like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's actually something we're talking about right now. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? And then again, it's asking more of those questions. So that's why I like product roadmap features. I get why people are hesitant to do it because you're on it and things will blow it up at any given time. But it's critical too, I think, for both the client and the sales rep.
It is like such a credibility builder in these meetings. And that's all we're looking for, is to build credibility for the next call, and like it gets ideas generated. They start going like, man, they are really innovative, all those things, right? It's like, it's such a big opportunity. I love presenting a product roadmap in a sales.
Roadmap. Okay. So for product folks on the call, like that's something to notice, that, just something to make a note of. Maybe maybe don't be so hesitant to share your roadmap. Just have a conversation with the salesperson of, what if we missed these dates? What are the implications? Maybe have that conversation in advance. But having a roadmap with dates really helps sales in, coming across as educated, building credibility. Also, selling products in advance, like sales motion can take a while before the product is built. So getting that going. Okay, let's Veronica, the one you mentioned, that I am more important than you, or you need me more than I need you. That is, like, I don't even know where to start with that one. Like, do you think it's one of those that leadership needs to set the tone, right?
Yeah, 100%. I agree that it all starts with leadership. Both teams deserve the credit. Both teams deserve the win. Like, I think that there are things that companies do that create that, right? Like president's clubs. That's one of the worst things that you can do. Who is it for? The salespeople. That's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. It should be, first of all, everybody should be involved in some point, right? Like everyone deserves a credit. Everyone deserves a free trip, right? Like it shouldn't, I get that maybe sales will be the bulk of it, but product should be on that. Operations should be on that trip. HR, tech, all of it should be on there. So I think that that really does stem from the top. And just, the appreciation that really, at the end of the day, you can't do it without each other. So don't make yourself more important. So that's almost like just a human, right? Kind of, but I think it starts at the top.
I'd love your perspective too, Veronica. Like I've seen some product managers, kind of like client directors, that have done these partnership presentations that sort of set like set a really good example. Because you kind of get the top. Either they're at the top and they're either like this or they're not. Certainly we can give feedback. You and I have given our fair share of feedback in our careers, I'm sure of it. But I've seen some of these product manager, client director little showcases that show the power of a team. Again, not at the top, inside the company, that starts to make that story come to life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's different in like when I think of sales from like an SDR to a AE perspective, right there. It's like a 1-to-1 ratio. I don't think that you can have that, but with product and sales, right? But I do think that you can start to build that relationship with that credibility with a partner in product that you start to become more comfortable with and presenting with. You're building that trust. You know they're not going to say anything, and that partnership pair becomes just. And then, by the way, track that. Track. Right, like what partnership pair is winning the best and winning like all. If you can track all of that, that's where you're also going to find big wins.
So I'll share a story. This was when I was at PayPal, and I was pitching a pricing capability to my leadership, and it just did not seem to go anywhere. And I feel like I was just like a broken record. And then my manager gave me this feedback. She's like, our leader, she hears from all of the product managers always advocating for what they want to build. So what you need to do is go to sales, find somebody who believes in this, who feels like who will be able to sell it, and then bring them to the leader, right? Because that will carry a lot more credibility than you trying to sell your capability. So I think what she was telling me, Veronica, was exactly what you are saying, kind of building that, sales product pair to kind of be able to really test and advocate for something.
Yeah. So one of the things that I started doing at ZipRecruiter, and this was a game changer. There was a product guy, Matt, you actually know him well, I think, Jay-Z. Great, amazing presenter, and just great. He helped us win Manpower. Like, it was just a long series. We would bring him on calls, and as a leader, I would do internal QBRs with the team, right? And I then, like, when we wanted to talk about the Manpower win, we brought Matt in as part of like the presentation on the QBR. And that was like oh my God, of course. So then from that moment on, I started inviting product to my QBRs. And what I had the team do then was basically come up with a slide that said, here are the product features or requests or services that I hear the most. Here's the value I would associate to them. Here are some clients. And I would have everybody present that slide. And product was listening. And then I would take all those slides, I would put them together, I'd write up a summary and send it out. And it helped basically structure and give format to some of the priorities moving forward. Other people in the organization found out that I was doing that. I now, as a leader, all of my QBRs are public. So I put it open. I have an open link. The CEO can join. You can come in and out as you want. Anybody can join our QBRs. You can't talk. Yeah. But you can join. And the only reason I say you can't talk is because then it slows everything down, right? So like, and if you've done QBRs, you just know they take days. So I invite everybody now. My forecasting calls, completely open. I let anybody join them at any time. And that transparency is so critical. And that's also where you can then start building that, hey, let me give a shout out to this person in product. Hey, and then all of a sudden, Jonathan's like, wow, I didn't know that Matt could do that. I'm going to have him go on this client meeting. And that's where it becomes one team.
Yeah, this flow of information and really getting to know each other in a very different setting, right? More low stakes setting.
So ask to be on those calls. That's what I would tell everybody here. Ask to be on those calls.
Be on those calls. Get more context. All right. Please, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to continue through the list.
Yeah. So, it's a bit long-winded, right? But I'll try to bell the cat. Others are probably trying to ask us. The question is about AI. Surprise, surprise. So Jay-Z and Veronica, with all the insights you have shared, everyone is talking about how AI is upending the game. What we are seeing as product leaders is that all of the due diligence, it's got to work for someone. What problem are you trying to solve? None of that due diligence went away. But all of the hype, all of the we can build it faster, we can vibe code our way into winning in the market. We are seeing a lot more hype. Do you think the relation between sales and product has to be adjusted? Do you think some tweaks have to be made as a result of this AI upending the game? What are your thoughts around it? And it. I don't think there's a perfect answer. My answer is, how do we keep this relation still solid and future proof?
I'll answer it with a story this week that I think showcases both sides of this. I had my product leader and two practice leaders, so kind of on the client delivery side, present 3 versions of a lovable mock-up to me this week on the same product. 2 people are not in product, okay?
Mhm.
But what that did is it created next week probably the best product feature review session we're ever going to have. Now, I'm going to make sure my product manager leads, runs, and owns that session because he's responsible for turning this into. But the ideas that are generating in their little vibe coding session is going to change the game of that meeting. But I had to remind both of them, like, you did this with some prompting, okay? Like, now we got to turn this into something that like 100 customers can log into.
Yeah, so
I have
we
a
basically
question about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So, I mean, vibe coding is great. It's a great skill to have, but a lot of times it doesn't deal with the actual complexities of building a product, right? I spent my career in enterprise, so QBRs are sacred, they're calculated. It's not an open for anybody to join, right? There's a sales motion, you're building modules. I mean, Oracle, they know what they're going to build, right? Type of places I've worked. So not as free and flowing for the SMB space, right? Do you find there is pushback or there is challenges because folks are creating things and not having that discipline of figuring out the market, the customer, the true pain point, getting really to sharp problems and really understanding, or they're just like, this is a great idea. How is that working? Because anybody can vibe code, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's an actual market and the discipline that product brings to make sure that it is the right thing and it is a scalable solution.
I cannot vibe code, by the way. You said anybody can vibe code, not this girl.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, but it gives a lot of false hope to folks, right?
Yeah.
When you're building something that costs a minimum of $125,000 to $250,000 to implement on an enterprise level, there's a scale. I mean, it gets you there to show it, but it's not something that people can build in a week when you're dealing with complex ERP or HR tech. I mean, I worked at UKG, like great company, but like you can't vibe code that stuff, right? You've got PI data, you've got, there's a lot of reviews. So how is that, JZ, with with the teams and the vibe coding?
I think it's like, I think vibe coding is it's just a different category. Like when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking of it like it's just high fidelity mock-up stuff,
Yeah.
And like now we can do those in 3 minutes or 10 minutes. But like, I'll be very clear next week that like, remember, this has to fit in a, whatever, our Snowflake database, something. I don't even know what I'm talking about, y'all, but like all that stuff over there, it's got to work in that so we can have 150 enterprise customers that can depend on this data. But like, it's going to get us to the value oriented side of the product, back to that, like, what problems are we solving? Like, it's going to get us there faster, but we're going to have to discipline ourselves to say, like, this is a different category. Vibe coding is, that's probably not the right, it's like front end vibe front ending or something. I don't know. It's like a different category. So I think we do have to reset the expectations, but I'm not I don't know that back end stuff, but I love what I can create and then have a conversation about problems we're trying to solve. But then it's got to go back into that product engineering discipline.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's more of a communication tool. It gives you a medium to really express your idea that you have, is how I see it.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Digant, I know you have your hand up for a while.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask about if anyone's had any experience using sort of a deal desk mechanism to define a set of metrics or a line between sales and product, right? So for example, setting a threshold like if this customer deal is worth more than X, then because like what I've heard a lot is that sales will say, well, we have this customer, it's worth X dollars, and then product will say, well, we already set the roadmap a year ago, so tough. Well, you have to wait 6 months, right? And that's usually an uncomfortable conversation. So I've seen some organizations establish this concept of a deal desk where leaders from sales, marketing, product get together and discuss. There's a set of like a rubric or a set of metrics that everyone's aligned on in terms of deal size or whatever to basically unlock the ability to kind of reprioritize. So any experience kind of using that mechanism to break through some of the tensions or like
The closest thing I've seen, like that I've done is we had, I don't know, was it story points or something? They had some sort of like here's the points we have for this quarter. Would reserve a portion of those for, mid-quarter preparation, customization.
Ad hoc requests, yeah.
And then we would have I don't think it was weekly, maybe it was once a month. We would have basically like a horse trading session where it's like, hey, we got to push that to the side and move this up so that we can use some of those to get this out for Uber back in the day or whatever the huge enterprise customer that everybody would drop everything for. We've all had those before, so that's the closest thing I've had to that.
I think it depends on the size of the organization. If it, I always like just kind of loving small startups. The phases of a small startup are very similar to maturing as a human, right? Like you're an infant, then you're a toddler, then you're going through puberty, then you're going, like there's just all these different stages of a company too. I think that in the beginning, having that type of environment is not productive because it doesn't build, there's just not enough information sharing. I think that it's really good to have escalation process, and involve in any kind of like escalation. It should always involve the two teams and then a neutral member. That's where I think you'll get your best results because you're going to have each person kind of presenting a side and then somebody who's not, involved in it to be able to actually hear the problem. But I think that it really does depend on where you are as an organization, but I'm always a fan of having a process around that. I do think though, ideally, whenever possible, you should never compromise any critical core product priorities, right? Things need to get shifted. We need to have flexibility, but when it comes to the core product, priorities for that need to almost trump everything sometimes.
I wanted to just kind of give an input on this because I've seen it done and I've done it a couple of different ways. And I like this Deal Hub. I've never used it, but what I have used in the past is HubSpot and have it open to at least the general manager or maybe the entire product team so they can see what the potential deal flow and the revenues are coming through. And then I think Jay-Z said that then you have a certain number of story points per team per sprint that are allocated to running the business. And then those would be maybe allocated whatever your business goals are according to like how much revenue they're going to bring in. So it's like a combination of matching it up with Jira and how many story points you have left for running the business and with HubSpot with who's going to bring in the most revenue.
Yeah, Mara, thank you. That's how I have also seen it work most frequently is we have some capacity for ad hoc requests, but where we are in a situation where we need something that's bigger than what would fit in our capacity, that's where it would go to somebody who's kind of the tiebreaker to say, okay, do we change the product roadmap and prioritize this new capability from sales, or do we go back to the customer and reset their expectations?
As long as sales is a tiebreaker, everything's fine,
And there you go.
So I wasn't pushing the software, but the article does a good job explaining kind of how deal desks work, and that's why I shared it. So I've never used the software, so I can't vouch for that. But
All right. We have three minutes left. Any last questions before we wrap up?
So as folks are bringing up their questions, quick 30 seconds for two announcements, safety announcements, as I like to say. One of them is, if you enjoyed today's session, please do let us know your thoughts in this poll. What that does is it tells us, what did you like, what should we be doing differently, what topics would you like to bring to such similar forums. So please that this poll, this survey is very important for us. And the second thing is, we have a newsletter. We promise not to spam your inbox. Few and far between, but that is how we let you know what are we presenting, what are the speakers which are coming up, so that you can mark your calendars. So two quick reminders again, please fill out the poll. It's a very, very quick survey. And if you can, and if you want, please do subscribe to our newsletter. Parul, back to you.
Thank you. Like last call for questions. Okay. So we are going to do a few rapid fire questions for the last minute or so, and then maybe we'll end a little bit early. So Jay-Z, Veronica, for both of you, one phrase that instantly makes you lean in during a conversation.
That makes me lean in.
Yeah. That gets you interested in a conversation.
So I don't have one that I can think of that makes me lean in. I have one though that makes me lean out.
All right. let's that would also be helpful.
When somebody says, like I said, I lean out. I'm out of the conversation.
I think the one that I'm thinking about is like, let's do a thought experiment here, because I like to really dream and be curious and ask questions. So I like lean in on those.
Those thought experiment. Thank you. Well, I don't know if we have time for any more questions. Veronica, Jay-Z, thank you so much for taking the time and come sharing your experience, your expertise with us. I really, really appreciate it. And I really enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise. Thank you for inviting us. It was enjoyable.
And thanks to your audience, for such an engaged audience. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Have a nice weekend.
Well.